A new kind of family. Elliot Carter took a deep breath as he stood outside the Maplewood County Courthouse. The autumn air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of fallen leaves, but it did little to calm his nerves. At 38, Elliot had spent years focused on building his contracting business, never imagining that fatherhood would come knocking in such an unexpected way. But life had a way of surprising you. He looked down at the two children standing by his side. Maya, with her thick black curls tied neatly in a ponytail, and Noah, who kept adjusting the frayed straps of his hand-me-down backpack. Their eyes flicked nervously between Elliot and the towering courthouse doors. "You ready?" he asked gently. Maya hesitated, her small face wary. "Do we have to go inside?" Elliot knelt to her level, his voice soft but steady. "Just one more step, kiddo. After this, we're officially a family. No more foster homes. No more wondering what's next." Noah, who had been quiet the entire morning, tugged on Maya's sleeve. "Can we trust him?" he whispered, loud enough for Elliot to hear. Maya glanced at Elliot, her brown eyes searching his face. He didn't flinch. He knew trust wasn't something these kids handed out easily, not after losing their parents in a tragic house fire and bouncing through a series of foster homes where love was often conditional. "I hope so," Maya finally said, taking Noah's hand. Elliot stood up, his chest tightening. "I'm not perfect," he admitted, "but I promise I'll do my best. We'll figure this out together." With that, they walked inside. The courtroom was modest, with polished wooden benches and a solemn air. The judge, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes, reviewed the paperwork in front of her. "Mr. Carter," she said, "you understand the responsibility you're taking on. These children have been through a lot. They'll need stability, love, and patience." "I understand, Your Honor," Elliot replied firmly. Maya and Noah sat stiffly in their chairs, their small hands clasped together. The judge's gaze softened. "Maya, Noah, do you feel safe with Mr. Carter?" Maya glanced at Noah, then back at the judge. "He's different," she said cautiously, "but he's nice." Noah nodded vigorously. "He makes pancakes that don't burn," he added, his voice tinged with awe. A ripple of laughter spread through the room, breaking the tension. Even the judge smiled. "Well, that's a good start," she said warmly. "Mr. Carter, congratulations. You are now the legal guardian of Maya and Noah Johnson." Elliot's heart swelled. The weight of responsibility mingled with an overwhelming sense of joy. "Thank you, Your Honor," he managed, his voice thick with emotion. As they left the courthouse, the late afternoon sun bathed the town square in golden light. Elliot paused on the steps, his breath catching at the enormity of what had just happened. He wasn't just a man running a business anymore. He was a father. "You okay?" Maya asked, her voice tentative. Elliot grinned. "Better than okay. You guys ready to celebrate?" "What kind of celebration?" Noah asked suspiciously. "The kind with ice cream," Elliot said, ruffling the boy's hair. Maya's eyes lit up. "I guess we can handle that." They walked to Maplewood's only ice cream parlor, Scoops and Smiles, a place Elliot had frequented as a kid. The bell above the door jingled as they entered, the sweet aroma of waffle cones filling the air. Mrs. Grady, the elderly owner, stood behind the counter. Her smile faltered when she saw Maya and Noah. "Well, if it isn't Elliot Carter," she said, forcing a grin. "Been a while." "Yeah, life's been busy," Elliot said, keeping his tone light. "We're here to celebrate." "Celebrating what?" "I just adopted these two amazing kids." Mrs. Grady's smile froze. Her eyes flicked to the children, then back to Elliot. "Oh, well, that's something." Elliot's jaw tightened, but he refused to let the moment be ruined. "3 cones, please. Chocolate for me." "What about you guys?" "Strawberry," Maya said softly. "Vanilla," Noah declared. As they sat at a booth by the window, enjoying their treats, Elliot noticed the whispers from other customers. He caught fragments of conversations. Did you hear? Elliot Carter adopted 2 black kids. Why would he do that? He's a single man, for heaven's sake. Poor kids. They'll never fit in here. Elliot's stomach churned, but he forced a smile for Maya and Noah's sake. How's the ice cream? He asked. Really good, Noah said, his face smeared with vanilla. Maya, however, was quiet. Why are people staring at us? Elliot took a deep breath. Because sometimes people don't understand things that are different. But that's their problem, not ours. Maya's brow furrowed. Are they always going to stare? Maybe, Elliot admitted. But we'll show them that different can be great. The walk home was quiet, each of them lost in thought. Their house sat on the edge of town, a cozy craftsman-style home with a wide front porch. Elliot had spent years fixing it up, never imagining it would one day be filled with the laughter and chaos of children. As they stepped inside, Noah let out a delighted whoop. We have our own rooms, right? Yep, Elliot said with a grin. Go check them out. Noah dashed up the stairs, his excitement contagious. Maya lingered by the door, her expression unreadable. You okay? Elliot asked gently. I guess, she said, fidgeting with the hem of her shirt. It's just a lot. I know, Elliot said, but we'll figure it out. Together. Maya's lips curved into a tentative smile. Okay. That night, as the house settled into quiet, Elliot stood by the window, looking out at the town that had once been his sanctuary. He knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. Prejudice ran deep in places like Maplewood, and there would be battles to fight. For himself, for Maya and Noah, and for the family they were building. But as he listened to the soft, steady breathing of the children upstairs, Elliot knew one thing for certain. Love was worth the fight. The weight of judgment. The sun rose over Maplewood, casting a golden glow on the rows of neatly lined houses and picket fences. To an outsider, it looked like a picturesque small town where life was simple and sweet. But Elliot Carter knew better. Beneath the friendly waves and polite smiles, there lurked an undercurrent of prejudice that thrived in whispers and sideways glances. This morning was no different. As Elliot walked Maya and Noah to school for their first day, the stares started almost immediately. A neighbor watering his lawn paused, the spray of water from his hose missing the flower as he gawked at the trio. Morning, Mr. Jenkins, Elliot called out cheerfully. Jenkins grunted, his eyes flicking from Elliot to the kids. New babysitting gig, Carter. Nope, Elliot replied with a tight smile. These are my kids, Maya and Noah. Jenkins blinked, clearly processing the information. Well, ain't that something? He muttered before turning back to his flowers. Maya's hand tightened around Elliot's. She didn't say anything, but the tension in her small frame was palpable. Noah, oblivious for now, skipped along the sidewalk, excited about the adventure of a new school. Elliot bent down slightly to Maya's level. Hey, you okay? She shrugged. People are weird. Elliot chuckled. Yeah, they can be. But remember what we talked about. Their opinions don't define us. We know who we are, and that's what matters. Maya gave a reluctant nod, her curls bouncing. The Maplewood Elementary School building loomed ahead, a brick structure with colorful murals painted along the walls. As they approached, a group of parents gathered near the entrance, their conversations halting as Elliot and the kids drew near. Isn't that Elliot Carter? One woman whispered loudly. With those kids. Another added. I heard he adopted them. Why would he do that? Elliot kept his head high, refusing to let the gossipers see any cracks in his armor. He knelt down in front of Maya and Noah. Okay, here's the plan, he said with a smile. You two are going to go in there, be your awesome selves, and have a great day. Got it? Noah grinned. Got it. Maya's expression was more guarded. What if they don't like us? Elliot's heart ached at her question. Then they're missing out on knowing 2 amazing kids, but I bet there are some pretty great people in there who will see how awesome you are. Give them a chance, okay? Maya hesitated, then nodded. Good. And remember, I'll be right here to pick you up after school. As they walked toward the door, Elliot felt the weight of the parents' judgment pressing down on him. He met their stares head-on, daring them to say something. When none of them did, he let out a slow breath and watched as Maya and Noah disappeared into the building. The day crawled by for Elliot. He tried to focus on his work, repairing a neighbor's deck, but his mind kept drifting back to the kids. Were they okay? Were they making friends? By the time the school bell rang, he was already waiting by the entrance. The crowd of parents had thinned out, and soon the doors burst open as kids flooded out, laughing and chattering. Noah was the first to spot him. Elliot, he yelled, sprinting toward him with a grin. I made 3 friends, and we played soccer at recess. That's awesome, buddy, Elliot said, ruffling his hair. Maya followed more slowly, her expression unreadable. How was your day? Elliot asked gently. She shrugged. It was okay. Elliot knew there was more to the story, but he didn't push. Wanna tell me about it over ice cream? Her lips quirked into a small smile. Maybe. They walked toward the diner, Noah chattering excitedly about his day. Maya remained quiet, lost in thought. Inside scoops and smiles, Mrs. Grady greeted them with a tight smile. Back again, Carter. Yep, we're celebrating the first day of school, Elliot said cheerfully. As they sat at their usual booth, Elliot noticed Maya picking at her ice cream. Something on your mind, Hiddo? He asked. She hesitated. Some kids were not nice. Elliot's chest tightened. What did they say? They said I didn't belong. That you can't really be my dad because you're white. And I'm not. Her voice wavered, but she held back the tears threatening to spill. Elliot leaned forward, his voice steady. Listen to me, Maya. People say hurtful things when they don't understand something. But what matters is what we know. And we know that we're family, no matter what anyone else thinks. She looked up at him, her eyes searching his face. Do you really mean that? Absolutely, Elliot said firmly. We're a team, remember? Maya's lips trembled before she managed a small smile. Okay. The next few weeks were challenging. Elliot heard whispers at the grocery store and felt the judgmental stares at community events. But he refused to let it break him or his family. He encouraged Maya to join the school's art club, hoping it would give her a creative outlet and help her make friends. Noah continued to thrive on the soccer field, his infectious energy winning over even the most skeptical parents. One afternoon, as Elliot was picking up supplies at the hardware store, Mr. Jenkins approached him. Carter, Jenkins said gruffly. Hey, Jenkins, Elliot replied, bracing himself for whatever was coming. I was wrong about you, Jenkins admitted, scratching the back of his neck. Takes guts to do what you're doing. Those kids are lucky to have you. Elliot was taken aback, but managed to smile. Thanks, Jenkins. That means a lot. As he drove home that evening, Elliot felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, the town was starting to change. But he knew the road ahead was still long, and he was ready for the fight. The storm that changed everything. Autumn painted Maplewood in hues of gold and crimson, the cool breeze rustling through the trees. Despite the picturesque scenery, life for Elliot, Maya, and Noah remained anything but serene. While some townsfolk had softened their views, others clung stubbornly to prejudice, their judgment weighing heavily on the little family. Elliot had learned to shrug off the whispers and stares. What mattered most was that his kids were safe and loved. Still, he worried, especially about Maya, who continued to struggle with fitting in at school. Noah, on the other hand, seemed impervious to the negativity, his boundless energy and charm winning over his classmates. One Saturday morning, Elliot decided they all needed a break. Road trip, he announced as the kids sat at the breakfast table, their plates piled with pancakes. Noah's eyes lit up. Where are we going? There's a lake about an hour from here. Thought we could spend the day fishing and maybe roast some marshmallows. Maya's brow furrowed. Do people like us there? Elliot's heart sank at the question. It's just us, kiddo. No one else matters. She nodded slowly. Okay, I guess that sounds fun. The drive to Lake Haven was filled with laughter and Noah's off-key singing. Maya sat quietly, gazing out the window, but Elliot noticed a small smile tugging at her lips when they passed a field of wildflowers. When they arrived, the lake shimmered under the midday sun, its surface reflecting the clear blue sky. The scent of pine and fresh water filled the air. This place is awesome, Noah shouted, racing toward the shoreline. Elliot set up their fishing gear while Maya helped gather firewood for later. The afternoon passed peacefully, with the kids taking turns casting their lines and giggling at the fish that got away. As the sun dipped lower, they sat around a crackling fire, roasting marshmallows. Best day ever, Noah declared, his face sticky with melted marshmallow. Maya nodded, her expression more relaxed than Elliot had seen in weeks. Yeah, it was nice. Elliot smiled. I'm glad. The drive back home was quiet, the kids dozing in the back seat. Elliot's heart felt lighter. Maybe this was the turning point they needed. But fate had other plans. As they neared Maplewood, dark clouds gathered ominously on the horizon. The wind picked up, whipping through the trees. Looks like a storm's rolling in, Elliot muttered to himself. By the time they reached town, rain was pelting down in sheets, and the wind howled through the streets. Branches snapped, and debris littered the roads. Elliot's grip on the steering wheel tightened as he navigated through the chaos. When they finally pulled into the driveway, he breathed a sigh of relief. Okay, kids, inside quick. They dashed through the rain, laughing despite the storm's fury. Once inside, Elliot made sure all the windows were secure and the emergency supplies were accessible. The power flickered, then went out entirely. Cool, Noah said, clearly enjoying the adventure. Maya, however, looked uneasy. What if it gets worse? Elliot crouched down in front of her. We're safe here. I've got a generator if we need it, and I'll be right here with you, okay? She nodded, her trust in him evident despite her fears. As the night wore on, the storm intensified. The wind roared like a freight train, and lightning illuminated the sky. Elliot kept a watchful eye on the weather updates, his concern growing. Around midnight, there was a sudden, deafening crash. What was that? Maya gasped, clutching Elliot's arm. Elliot grabbed a flashlight and headed toward the back of the house. A massive oak tree had fallen, crushing part of the fence, and narrowly missing the garage. Stay inside, he instructed the kids, his voice firm. He stepped into the rain, assessing the damage. The fence was a total loss, but thankfully the house and garage were intact. As he worked to clear some of the debris, a sudden cry for help pierced the night. Elliot's heart raced. The voice was faint but desperate. He ran toward the sound, his flashlight cutting through the darkness. Near the edge of his property, he found Mr. Jenkins trapped beneath a fallen tree limb. Blood trickled from a gash on his forehead. Hang on, Jenkins, Elliot shouted, adrenaline surging through him. Using every ounce of strength, he managed to lift the limb just enough for Jenkins to crawl out. The older man winced in pain, but managed to stand with Elliot's help. Thank you, Jenkins gasped, his voice shaky. Let's get you inside, Elliot said, guiding him toward the house. Back inside, Maya and Noah watched anxiously as Elliot helped Jenkins to the couch. Is he okay? Noah asked. He'll be fine, Elliot assured them. Maya brought over a first aid kit, and Elliot cleaned Jenkins' wound. You didn't have to do this, Jenkins said gruffly. Yes, I did, Elliot replied simply. That's what neighbors do. Jenkins looked at him for a long moment. I was wrong about you, Carter. And about those kids. You're a better man than most around here. Elliot's jaw tightened. Took you long enough to see it. Jenkins chuckled weakly. Fair enough. As the storm raged on outside, something shifted inside the little house. The walls that had divided Elliot and some of the townsfolk began to crack. And Elliot knew this was just the beginning of a change Maplewood desperately needed. A town reckons with its heart. Morning broke over Maplewood, revealing the aftermath of the storm. Streets were littered with fallen branches, shattered windows, and debris scattered across lawns. The town, usually pristine and orderly, now looked bruised and battered. Elliot stood on his porch, surveying the damage. The oak tree that had nearly crushed his garage lay splintered, its roots torn from the ground. The fence was beyond repair, leaning awkwardly against the neighboring lot. Behind him, Noah bounded out, still buzzing from the previous night's adventure. "Whoa, that tree's huge," he exclaimed. Elliot chuckled despite the chaos. "Yep, and now it's a huge problem." Maya followed, quieter than her brother, her gaze thoughtful. "Are we going to be okay?" "We'll be fine," Elliot assured her. "It's just wood and nails. People matter more." As if on cue, Mr. Jenkins stepped out from the living room, wincing slightly as he adjusted his weight. A large bandage covered the gash on his forehead. "You didn't have to let me stay the night," he grumbled, though there was a hint of gratitude in his tone. "Neighbors help each other," Elliot said simply. "Besides, you'd do the same for me, right?" Jenkins snorted. "Guess I would now." The town square was bustling with activity as residents gathered to assess the damage and plan the cleanup. The community had always prided itself on its resilience, and this storm would be no different. Elliot and the kids arrived with rakes and gloves in hand. As they approached, conversations hushed, and familiar stares followed them. But something had shifted. Mrs. Thompson, who had always been quick with a disapproving glance, approached with a tentative smile. "Morning, Elliot," she said. "Heard you saved Jenkins last night." "Just did what anyone would," Elliot replied, keeping his tone neutral. "Well, thank you for that," she said, her cheeks flushing slightly. "We could use more folks like you around here." Elliot nodded, surprised but appreciative. As they set to work clearing debris, more neighbors approached, offering hesitant but genuine words of gratitude. Even those who had once whispered behind his back now seemed to view him in a different light. Maya and Noah joined a group of kids gathering fallen branches, their laughter mingling with the sounds of saws and hammers. Maya's usual guarded demeanor softened as she worked alongside her peers. Elliot's chest swelled with pride. They were finding their place, despite everything. By midday, the town square had been transformed. Piles of debris lined the streets, ready for pickup, and the community spirit was palpable. As the volunteers gathered for a break, Mayor Whittaker stood on the steps of the town hall. "Folks," he began, his voice carrying over the crowd, "this storm knocked us down, but it didn't break us, and that's because of people like Elliot Carter." The crowd murmured in agreement, heads turning toward Elliot. "He didn't just help clean up," the mayor continued. "He saved one of our own last night. And I think it's high time we recognize that family isn't just about blood. It's about love, commitment, and doing what's right. Elliot, you and your kids are part of this town, and we're lucky to have you." Applause rippled through the crowd. Elliot felt a lump form in his throat as he glanced at Maya and Noah, who beamed with pride. "Thank you," he managed to say, his voice thick with emotion. Later that evening, as the family sat around the dinner table, there was a knock at the door. Elliot opened it to find Mrs. Johnson, the town gossip, standing nervously on the porch. She held a casserole dish in her hands. "Mrs. Johnson," Elliot greeted, surprised. I wanted to apologize," she said, her voice wavering. "I was wrong about you and the kids. You've shown this town what it means to be a good man, and I'm sorry for how I treated you." Elliot took the dish, his heart softening. "Thank you. That means a lot." She nodded, her eyes misty. "Well, I'd better get going. Take care, Elliot." As she walked away, Elliot felt a sense of closure. The walls of prejudice were crumbling. one person at a time. That night, as the kids settled into bed, Maya hesitated at the door to her room. "Elliot," she said softly. "Yeah, kiddo. Do you think people really changed today?" "I think they took the first step," Elliot said thoughtfully. "Change takes time, but I believe they're trying." Maya nodded, her expression thoughtful. "I think I'm going to like it here." Elliot's heart swelled. "I know I will." As he watched her disappear into her room, he knew their journey was far from over. But for the first time, it felt like they were truly home. New bonds and old wounds. The golden hues of autumn gradually gave way to the crisp chill of early winter. Maplewood, now mostly repaired from the devastating storm, stood as a testament to resilience and renewal. The community spirit lingered, stronger than before. People waved at Elliot and the kids on the street, greeted them warmly at the grocery store, and invited them to church potlucks. Though many hearts had softened, there were still pockets of resistance. Change was never universal or immediate, Elliot reminded himself. Still, he found joy in the small victories, the way Maya came home smiling more often, the way Noah's soccer team cheered for him without hesitation, and the way neighbors who once sneered now asked about the kids with genuine interest. One Saturday afternoon, Elliot decided to build a new fence to replace the one destroyed by the storm. As he measured out the posts, he noticed Mr. Jenkins hobbling toward him, his cane tapping against the pavement. "Need a hand, Carter?" Jenkins called out. Elliot grinned. "Appreciate the offer, but I thought you were supposed to be taking it easy." Jenkins snorted. "Taking it easy's for quitters." Elliot handed him a pair of gloves. "In that case, you're hired." The two men worked side by side, the air filled with the sound of hammers and the occasional grunt of effort. "You know," Jenkins said after a while, "I used to think you were crazy for adopting those kids." Elliot paused, wiping sweat from his brow. "And now? Now I think you've got more guts than most folks around here." Elliot smiled faintly. "Thanks, Jenkins. That means a lot." Jenkins nodded, his expression serious. "This town's changing, Carter. And you had a hand in that. Don't forget it." Later that evening, as the family gathered around the dinner table, there was a knock at the door. "I'll get it," Noah shouted, racing to the door. He returned with a broad grin. "It's Coach Ramirez." The soccer coach stepped inside, his face warm with a smile. "Hey, Elliot. Hope I'm not interrupting dinner." "Not at all. What brings you by?" "I wanted to talk about Noah," Ramirez said, glancing at the boy who was already bouncing with excitement. Oh, Elliot teased. "Is he causing trouble on the field?" Ramirez laughed. "Quite the opposite. He's a natural leader, and the team responds to him. I'd like to recommend him as team captain next season." Noah's eyes widened. "For real?" "For real," Ramirez confirmed. Elliot beamed with pride. "That's incredible, Noah." "Thanks, Coach," Noah said, practically vibrating with excitement. As Ramirez left, Elliot felt a surge of gratitude. His kids were finding their place in Maplewood, despite the challenges. Not everyone, however, was as welcoming. One afternoon, while picking up groceries, Elliot overheard two men talking near the produce section. "Can't believe they're making a black kid team captain," one muttered. "Carter's got this town wrapped around his finger," the other grumbled. Elliot's jaw clenched, but he forced himself to stay calm. Confrontation wouldn't solve anything. Instead, he focused on the progress they'd made. Later, as they loaded the groceries into the car, Maya noticed his tension. "Everything okay?" she asked. Elliot forced a smile. "Yeah, just some people stuck in the past." Maya's expression hardened. "They'll get over it." Elliot chuckled. "I think you might be tougher than me, kiddo." The town's annual winter festival arrived, bringing with it twinkling lights, cheerful music, and the scent of hot cocoa. The festival was a cherished tradition, drawing families from all over the county. Elliot, and the kids wandered through the festivities, marveling at the ice sculptures and sampling treats from the various stalls. "Can we go ice skating?" Noah begged, his eyes sparkling. "Go for it," Elliot said. "Just don't break anything." As the kids laced up their skates, Elliot spotted Mrs. Johnson manning the hot cocoa booth. She waved him over. "Elliot," she called, "come try my famous peppermint cocoa." He laughed. "How can I say no to that?" As she handed him a steaming cup, her expression grew serious. "You've done a lot for this town," she said quietly. "More than most people realize. I just wanted you to know I see it, and I'm sorry for how I treated you before." Elliot's throat tightened. "Thanks, Mrs. Johnson. That means a lot." They shared a warm smile, the weight of the past finally lifting. As the evening mooned down, the family gathered near the bonfire, the flames casting a warm glow. "Best winter festival ever," Noah declared, his cheeks red from the cold. Maya nodded, her eyes reflecting the firelight. "It really was." Elliot wrapped an arm around both kids. "You know what? I think we're finally where we're meant to be." Maya's smile was soft but sure. "Yeah, me too." The road had been long and filled with challenges, but they had found their place in Maplewood, a place where love, courage, and resilience had triumphed over prejudice. And Elliot knew their story was just beginning. The final test of family and community. Winter wrapped Maplewood in a serene blanket of white, its streets sparkling under the pale glow of streetlights. The storm that had once shaken the town was now a distant memory, replaced by the rhythm of daily life and newfound connections. Elliot Carter watched from his living room window as Maya and Noah built a lopsided snowman in the front yard. Their laughter echoed through the chilly air, warming his heart. They had come so far, his resilient little family, and he couldn't have been prouder. A knock at the door pulled him from his thoughts. "Hey, Elliot," said Mayor Whittaker, brushing snow from his coat as he stepped inside. "Mayor, what brings you by?" "We need your help," Whittaker said, his expression grave. "There's trouble up at the old mill." Elliot's brows furrowed. The mill had been closed for years, a relic of Maplewood's industrial past. What kind of trouble? "A group of kids went exploring and got trapped when part of the structure collapsed. We need all hands on deck to get them out." Elliot didn't hesitate. "Let me grab my coat." The scene at the mill was chaotic. Emergency vehicles lined the snow-covered road, their lights casting eerie red and blue flashes across the landscape. Townsfolk had gathered, their faces etched with worry. Elliot spotted Jenkins near the entrance, his face grim. "How bad is it?" Elliot asked. "Real bad," Jenkins said. "The roof caved in, and there's a risk of further collapse. 2 kids are still inside." Elliot's heart clenched. He thought of Maya and Noah, safe at home, and knew he had to act. "I'm going in," he said. "You sure about that?" Jenkins asked. "Those kids need help. That's all that matters." The interior of the mill was a maze of twisted metal and fallen beams. The air was thick with dust, and the bitter cold seeped through Elliot's coat. He moved carefully, his flashlight cutting through the darkness. "Help! Over here," a faint voice called. Elliot's heart raced as he followed the sound. Near a collapsed section of the floor, he found 2 boys huddled together, their faces pale with fear. "It's okay," Elliot said gently. "I'm here to get you out." One of the boys whimpered. "We're stuck. The floor's too weak." Elliot assessed the situation. The floorboards creaked ominously under his weight. One wrong step, and they'd all go down. "Listen," he said calmly, "I need you to trust me. We're going to move slowly, okay?" The boys nodded, their eyes wide. Elliot guided them carefully, keeping his steps deliberate and steady. Each creak and groan of the wood sent adrenaline surging through his veins, but he didn't waver. After what felt like an eternity, they reached solid ground. "You did great," Elliot praised as they moved toward the exit. Cheers erupted as they emerged from the mill. Parents rushed forward, tears streaming down their faces as they embraced their children. Elliot stood back, his breath visible in the cold air, a deep sense of relief washing over him. Jenkins clapped a hand on his shoulder. "You're a damn hero, Carter." "Just did what anyone would," Elliot said, brushing off the praise. Jenkins shook his head. "No, not just anyone. You." The next day, the town square was abuzz with gratitude and admiration for Elliot. People stopped him on the street, thanking him for his bravery. Even Mrs. Johnson, who had once been his harshest critic, called him the pride of Maplewood. Maya and Noah beamed with pride as they listened to the stories of their father's heroism. "You're like a real-life superhero," Noah declared. Elliot ruffled his hair. "Just trying to be a good dad, buddy." Maya's expression was thoughtful. "You're more than that. You showed everyone that family is what you make it." Her words struck a chord deep within Elliot. A week later, the town hosted a community gathering at the park to celebrate the rescue and the bonds that had grown stronger in its aftermath. The bonfire crackled warmly, and the air was filled with the scent of hot cider and roasted chestnuts. Mayor Whitaker stood before the crowd. "Tonight, we honor courage, resilience, and the power of community," he said. "Elliot Carter, you've shown us what it means to be a true leader and neighbor. And for that, we thank you." The crowd erupted in applause. Elliot, reluctant as always to be in the spotlight, stepped forward with a humble nod. "Thank you," he said simply. "This town has come a long way, and I'm proud to be part of it. But I couldn't have done it alone. My kids, Maya and Noah, are the reason I do what I do. They're my heart." Tears glistened in Maya's eyes as she stood beside him. "We love you, Dad," she whispered. "I love you too, kiddo," Elliot said, his voice thick with emotion. As the night wore on, laughter and joy filled the air. Elliot looked around, seeing faces that had once been filled with doubt now shining with warmth and acceptance. Maplewood had changed, and so had he. Back home, as the kids settled into bed, Elliot sat by the fireplace, the flames casting flickering shadows across the room. Maya appeared at the doorway, her expression hesitant. "Can I sit with you?" she asked. "Of course," Elliot said, patting the spot beside him. She curled up next to him, her voice soft. "Do you think people will always remember what you did?" Elliot smiled faintly. "Maybe. But what matters most is that you and Noah know I'll always be there for you." Maya's eyes shone with gratitude. "We know." As she rested her head on his shoulder, Elliot felt a profound sense of peace. Their journey had been filled with challenges, but they had built something unbreakable, a family bound by love, courage, and the unwavering belief that they belonged. And no storm, past or future, could ever change that. A legacy of love and strength. The icy grip of winter loosened a toll on Maplewood, giving way to the first signs of spring. Blossoms began to peek through frost-bitten soil, and the town buzzed with renewed life. For Elliot, Maya, and Noah, this new season symbolized more than just nature's awakening. It was a time of new beginnings, a testament to their journey of love, courage, and belonging. One Saturday morning, Elliot decided it was time to fulfill a long-standing promise. "Kids," he called from the garage, "get your boots on. We've got a project today." Noah sprinted out first, eyes wide with curiosity. "What kind of project?" "You'll see," Elliot teased. Maya emerged next, her skeptical expression making Elliot chuckle. This better not be another fence-building situation. "Trust me," Elliot grinned. "You're gonna love this." They piled into the truck and headed toward a plot of land on the outskirts of town. Rolling fields stretched as far as the eye could see, dotted with wildflowers, and bordered by a gentle stream. "What is this place?" Maya asked, her voice filled with wonder. "This," Elliot said, stepping out of the truck, "is our future." Noah's eyes sparkled. "You mean, we're building something here?" "Exactly," Elliot confirmed. We're going to create a garden and picnic area for the community, a place where everyone can come together. Maya's brow furrowed. Why? Elliot knelt beside her, his voice gentle. Because we've learned how important it is to have a place where people feel welcome, and I want us to build that for others. Maya's expression softened. I like that. Over the following weeks, the garden project became a town-wide effort. Families who had once kept their distance from Elliot and the kids now worked side by side with them, digging, planting, and laughing together. Mrs. Johnson brought over trays of lemonade and sandwiches, her gossiping days replaced by genuine warmth. Jenkins, despite his gruff demeanor, showed up with his toolbox and a determination to build the sturdiest picnic tables in the county. Even Mayor Whittaker pitched in, trading his suit for a pair of muddy boots. You've turned this town around, Elliot, the mayor said one afternoon as they planted a row of wildflowers. I didn't do it alone, Elliot replied, glancing at the kids, who were helping a group of younger children plant seeds. We all did it together. On the day of the grand opening, the garden was a vibrant tapestry of colors and life. A large sign at the entrance read, "The Carter Community Garden, built with love and hope." Families gathered on picnic blankets, children played by the stream, and laughter filled the air. As the sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a golden glow over the scene, Elliot stood with Maya and Noah, taking it all in. You did good, Dad, Maya said, her voice filled with pride. We did good, Elliot corrected, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. Noah grinned. Best garden ever. Elliot chuckled. I'll take that. Later that evening, as the last guests trickled out, Elliot and the kids sat by the stream, their feet dangling in the cool water. I never thought we'd have this, Maya admitted softly. Have what? Elliot asked. A place where we belong. People who care about us. Elliot's throat tightened. You'll always have that, Maya, no matter what. She smiled, her eyes shimmering in the fading light. Thanks for never giving up on us. Noah chimed in, his voice playful. And for being the best dad ever. Elliot laughed, ruffling his hair. You two make it easy. As night fell, they walked back to the truck, their hearts full. The stars above sparkled like promises yet to be fulfilled. Maplewood had become more than just a town. It was a testament to the power of love, resilience, and the belief that family was built not by blood, but by unwavering commitment. Elliot knew their story was far from over. There would be new challenges, new adventures, and new memories to create. But one thing was certain, they were stronger together. And together, they would face whatever came next.